Hello, everybody. For today, I want to share a personal story. And I think this is a story that a lot of men go through at some point in their lives. Ladies, this one may not apply as much to you, but I suppose that there are some of you that deal with this too. But for guys, the loss of hair, the struggle is real. And for some of us, it occurs earlier in life. For others of us, it occurs much later. But I want to talk about why me going bald was very possibly the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And the time, I wouldn't have thought that was the case at all. So, really, I've been losing my hair for a number of years. Um, really, I'd say probably easily about 7 years or so that I've been gradually losing it. I had a friend about a week ago was showed me some older photos of myself back when I had hair, although it was fading away, and I realized, God, I looked horrible. Basically, the hairline was, it was here and then it just gradually kept going back and back. Years and years ago, we're talking 10, 15 years ago, I had long hair. I had hair that went all the way down. I had the full Jesus beard, the full long hair, everything else, I thought I looked cool. I was rebelling, but let's be honest, I didn't look that great. Let's just call it what it was. Now I can look at it in hindsight and say that, but really I started to lose my hair about really 7 years ago. And naturally, it was, as in my case, it started in the back here along the that particular place. And I started to get a big bald spot there. And then at the same time, my hairline here started to recede back. And I freaked out. When that first started, I was absolutely terrified behind it. I felt like my life was over or that my life was ending. I was researching like mad trying to find out what I could do to get rid of it, whether it was getting hair plugs, whether it was Rogaine, whether it was, whatever possible treatments I could do. And once I realized that it was really happening, I remember the first thing I did was I started to cut my long hair back. And I didn't go into a professional barber. I just literally started just cutting it off and getting it shorter and shorter. And I definitely had some people commenting about it, but nothing major. Just they said you're cutting it because I had had it long for such a long period of time. But when it's starting to go like that, the last thing you want to do is keep your hair long. You don't want to you don't want to have this bald completely up here and this long hair in the back. You look like who was that guy? The comic book guy from The Simpsons, the one who has the long hair and tied up. The big overweight guy. Yeah, I do not. That is the last thing that I want to do is to make myself look like, to be blunt, like a fat slob, and all the various other negativity that goes with somebody that continues to look that way. So no, I did not do that. But one thing it did expose to me was how self-conscious I was about my looks. I just so freaked out because I was like, people aren't going to like me. I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to look ugly. You can think of every negative connotation that you want to have about it. And the truth was, now that I look back at my photos from that time, I realize I did look bad. Let's just be honest. And the real reason I looked bad was because I was trying to fight something that didn't really need to be fought. The reality is men lose their hair and go bald, and that's a very, that's a very common thing. Yes, everyone thinks, oh, women, you're going to look bad in the office, or that women aren't going to like you or be attracted to you. But, again, you look with this horrible hairline and with balding all over the place. You're going to look bad if you don't, do something about it. Now, admittedly, there are, a few people out there that just rock it and embrace it. They have the donut around the back of their head, and that's a pretty rare thing. But there are a few, people out there who just find that they can somehow make that work for them, and God bless them for those that can. Me, I really knew that I wasn't gonna have hair anymore, and it screws with your self perception so badly. I remember when this was back years ago at a prior job, when I first started to lose it, I remembered looking at all the people, the guys at work, and kind of looking at the back of their head trying to see, were they losing their hair? And I was just so incredibly self-conscious about it. I was noticing every bit of hair that was falling out of my head when I was in the shower. I would notice other guys, I would just be looking at them to see, are they losing their hair, or what is their hairstyle go? And it was ridiculous. And I never realized how self-conscious I was about that. And it's something that ultimately is really superficial. It doesn't matter what my hair looks like or what my hair doesn't look like. And yet, for me, it absolutely was. And that was also a point in my life where I was struggling a lot. I was struggling emotionally because I wasn't, I was in a dead end job that wasn't really moving me anywhere. I was not really active in the dating scene. I wasn't really getting any action, or really wasn't even out there dating or doing anything serious with that. I kind of just was floating along in my life, la di da di da. This is what I'm doing here, and yeah, it really was not. It really was not doing anything for me. But fast forward, the hair continued to get worse and worse, and it was about three, 3.5 years ago. Would have been August 20. I don't even know, but 3.5 years ago, something around that particular point in time, that I finally woke up one day and I said, I'm done with this battle. Between being constantly freaked out about losing my hair, watching it going down the drain, trying to use all this product and just watching it get worse and worse and worse. And I just said enough was enough. And so I got the clippers, the ones that I would normally use to trim my beard up, because that was all I had at that point in time. But they were plenty sufficient for that. And prior to this, I had been watching some, I think it was on Reddit, some videos of guys who just, did the transformation, just did the deed, cut it all off, and moved on their way. The last time I had talked to my barber, um, she had said I had, for whatever reason, had a really good lady that was good at my keeping my hair in line. And she said, your head's fine. You have a nice, your head isn't terribly oddball shaped. It's not like I had a big gaping hole in the side of my head that was going to suddenly come forth, and everybody was going to be like, oh my God, look at this horribly grotesque individual. Now that's kind of what I thought in my mind, was that was going to be the case. And but it was the constant panic, the constant freak out about it in my mind was just so enormous. One day I said, I can't deal with this stress anymore. I absolutely cannot deal with this. So I got my phone out. I do have the recording somewhere. Now, I'm not posting it today, I'll tell you that much. Maybe at some point down the road, I'll post it, or post a before and after, just so you guys can all see what the difference is. But I put it on there and I did the deed, just started, going over it one at a time. And, in 5 or 10 minutes after that, it was done. And I remembered looking at myself in the mirror, and I wanted to say that I felt it was over, but I was actually terrified. I was freaked out to hell, because I'm like, what have I done? I've ruined my look. I have scarred myself for life somehow, in a way that I wouldn't be able to come back from. And I did it on a Saturday. And the next day was Sunday. I was going to be attending church, and I knew a fair number of people there. So I knew that they were going to see the difference on that one. Also, I had a friend, he was going to be there, and I hadn't talked to him or hadn't seen him in a little bit. He had been busy with a bunch of other stuff at that point. So I, went to church that day, and my friend saw me, and he was dealing with other church activities there, so he didn't really have a lot of time to talk to me. And he looked at me and he said, "Wow." He said, "That's quite a change." And then he said, "You look good." And that was that. And I was expecting, for whatever reason, I was expecting for him to say, "Hey, you fat ugly bastard, you look horrible," or, whatever the case might happen to be. Now, why? I don't know. I don't know what was in my head to make me think that somehow they was going to be the way they reacted. The pastor came over, happened to catch me just as I was heading out, and he said, "Wow, you took it all off." Yeah, and he said, "Hey," he said, "I think it's fine. You look good." He said, "Are you okay with it?" And I said, "Well, I'm not really sure one way or the other." And he said, "Well, let me tell you." He said, "I don't see any problem with it whatsoever." And so right there, I was like, okay. you know After that, I was, at that point in time, I was seeing or dating somebody. It wasn't anything super serious, but when they saw the change, the person I was dating said, she was like, "Yeah, I actually like you better with the way you look." That relationship, we dated for 3 or 4 months. It never really went anywhere, super serious. But that certainly, my lack of hair certainly was not the reason why she stopped dating me. Totally different story that we'll get into another time. Um, and even when I went to work, I got in there, and people were a little shocked, understandably, going from hair to no hair. But after a lot of just comments and people reacting, really was nothing negative. People were really surprised by the change, but I didn't see people making any harsh or negative comments to me. And then probably after that first week or so, nothing, nothing. Nobody really made a difference. Nobody cared one way or the other. I didn't really hear any comments. Every once in a while, I would have people at work joke about me being Mr. Clean, especially when I started going to the gym, and started to put on some muscle. And I'm like, Mr. Clean's a pretty. If you've seen pictures of, go Google Mr. Clean. Mr. Clean is a pretty buff dude. I mean, yeah, he's pushing around that mop, or he's wiping things down, but he's a buff dude. So if you're gonna compare me to Mr. Clean, I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I will definitely take that as a compliment. And the truth was they weren't really beating me up too hard. It was more they would joke about the shine coming off of it, but it was all light, good-natured ribbing. I didn't find myself feeling embarrassed or anything else about that. But the difference, it's strange because now looking back, I didn't realize it, but at that time, you know, it was a couple months after that when I started to go to the gym. And been 3.5 years that I've gone to the gym consistently. That moment is where I really feel like everything started to change in my life. I was super, even though I was dating, I wasn't really, I was, honestly, I was screwed up in my mind. And I think that my own psychological stuff was a big part of why that relationship never worked out. I don't think it would have worked out anyways, but that was kind of the main reason why that happened. But going to the gym, which was directly a decision that came off of that, was one of the best decisions ever of my life. So one thing first of all was getting rid of this. When it was gone, I didn't have to worry. There was no conscience or no constant panic. Am I going to lose my hair? Is it going down the drain? Do I need hair products? Do whatever else? It's gone. Problem is taken care of. And nobody gave me any crap about it one way or the other. I made the decision. I owned the decision. And once people realized that I was okay with it, they were okay with it too. They didn't care one way or the other. It didn't do me. I don't know that it necessarily helped me, but it sure as heck didn't hurt me. And I would argue that it did help me because it told me, guess what? You can make a change. When you need to make a change, you need to make a change and do that sort of thing. That was what forced me into the gym. I was like, I can make this one change. I can make another change. And so I started going to the gym. And as I look back, I can really see that that was the start of a lot of other positive changes I started to make in my life. Started eating better. I started dressing better. I started, doing other activities, started to change the way that I think about things. Certainly started being less focused on my, physical looks. Yeah, you still want to look, you still want to make yourself presentable, but I wasn't freaking out that, oh my gosh, somebody's going to see me out there and they're not going to like the way that I look. And really, I feel like that it also was the reason that eventually it helped me get to this point where I've doing this YouTube channel. Because really that was where kind of the beginnings of, hey, if I can do this, if I can shave my head and be done with it, if I can go to the gym and get consistent with that, maybe I can be consistent with something else. Maybe I can start to be consistent with my eating. I can start being consistent with doing other things in my life. And I have a lot to go. Don't get me wrong. I still have plenty of struggles and plenty of trials. But I think it's important to realize that sometimes the smallest change that you make can have effects that you don't even realize, that you don't even think of at that point until you look back years down the road and say, yeah, that was the first piece. And I think that the whole aspect of being so self-conscious that we that we worry about what all these other people think. We're so caught up in how the world we think the world sees us that we don't stop to realize that the world ultimately doesn't care one way or the other. And if the world does care, 9 times out of 10, what they care about doesn't matter. You have to make the decisions that are right for you because they're the right decisions for you. You can't make decisions consistently because it's what everybody else wants to do. Now, if the world wants you to do something and that happens to align with what is good for you, maybe you do it. Maybe that's the right step. But if you don't, if you're so afraid to make that change because of what other people think, then you're not gonna get anywhere. You're not going to proceed, or you're not going to develop. So really, this has been great for me. Really, the fact that my genetics were such garbage that I lost my hair, although to be fair, I lost it probably a lot later than a lot of other people, being that I'm in my mid 40s. I'm certainly didn't win the genetic lottery in terms of my hair, but I had it for a number of years, so I guess in that regard I can't complain. But I would say to those guys out there that are thinking about this or struggling with that, don't be afraid to do it. Worst that happens is that you don't like it and you grow it back, whatever you happen to have. On the other side, it may be the catalyst for a whole series of changes that make you better than you ever thought you would be. If you like this story, please like, subscribe, share this with other people. Tell me what you think. Have you had, for those guys out there, maybe even for the ladies, if there are any out there, have you had this experience with losing your hair? What have you done? Did you just one day make the decision to get rid of it completely? Have you done something else? How has it affected you? How did people react? How did it change you on a psychological level? Let me know. If you and if that with that in mind, if I can't talk here because apparently I can't, I will go ahead and see you all in the next video. Take care.